Hey guys, it's Daniel. One of Nirvana's most famous concerts took place on July 23, 1993, in New York City at the Roseland Ballroom. This was Nirvana's new music seminar performance. The band performed 22 songs that night, and one of the notable things about this performance is that 4 of the songs, Polly, Dumb, Something in the Way, and Where Did You Sleep Last Night, were done acoustically. This took place 4 months before Nirvana's MTV Unplugged performance on November 18, 1993. And so some consider the acoustic set at the New Music Seminar a sort of precursor to MTV Unplugged. I'm going to read to you a quote from Kurt Cobain from July 24th of 1993, the day after the New Music Seminar, where he shares his thoughts on the acoustic set. Afterwards, I'm going to show you a clip from my interview with Nirvana guitar tech Ernie Bailey. Ernie worked both MTV Unplugged and the New Music Seminar, and in this clip I'm going to show you, Ernie discusses one of the issues facing Nirvana going into Unplugged. If you want to see my full interview with Ernie Bailey where he discusses a variety of things about Nirvana, the link is available below. First, here's the Kurt Cobain quote. Quote, "The acoustic set for the New Music Seminar was a very last-minute idea. We've been toying with the idea for a month or so, but we finally found the cellist 2 days before we were scheduled to leave for here, and she was only available to practice with us for about 3 hours. So we ran through the 4 or 5 songs in that 3 hours, which gave me quite a heavy bit of nervous tension before the show, because I'd never done anything like this at all. I didn't know what to expect. For years, I've always loathed the idea of acoustic sets because of the indulgent aspect with Zeppelin making a big production out of it. Sit down for an hour or so, which seems to take away the whole energy that's given off by the electric part of the set. The sound check turned out really good, but once the venue filled up and we got on stage, it made the monitors sound completely different. The guitar sounded like a banjo and I couldn't hear the cello. I could hear people talking louder than I can hear our band. That's a New York audience for you. Very rude. At first, I was really pissed off about it. Then I realized it's New York and the New Music Seminar is on. You can't expect an audience in this kind of environment to pay a lot of attention to you and accept something as different as Nirvana doing an acoustic set. Although we've had a couple of acoustic songs on both our records, it's not what's expected from us. Then there's the particular effects of finishing the set with what? I think it wouldn't have gone over so well if we hadn't had come back out on stage and played a couple of more electric songs. I'll do an acoustic performance again if I can make sure that the monitors will sound better next time. I've tried to play acoustic guitar live a few times and it's just never worked. It's never sounded like an acoustic guitar by the time it's been put through the PA and monitors. It's really hard to mic an acoustic guitar and get the same sound out of it as when you play it in a room. So maybe we'll leave it to surprise shows, when we play small pubs and so on. I'd rather do that. I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would. We knew it wouldn't be as indulgent as a Led Zeppelin acoustic set. We made sure we'd only play 4 or 5 songs, go off stage, and then play some more electrically. I've been playing In the Pines for years myself, but that was the first time the bands played it. It was thrown together at the last minute, so we weren't tight enough. It didn't seem familiar enough to relax and enjoy it. I should still be able to enjoy it whether or not my guitar sounds good to me, though. I should know it's going to at least sound good in the audience, which I've been told by at least 10 people it did last night." End quote. The following is the clip from Ernie Bailey where he discusses MTV Unplugged. If you want to see the full interview, the link is available below. I was actually just going to ask you about Unplugged. I was going to ask if you were involved, but you just said you were. What was that show like just prepping for it and then the actual show itself? How was that experience for you?
At first, I think it was kind of fun because we were going to be doing something we'd never done before. And then it did take some logistical effort to make the equipment happen, because Kurt did have some sort of abstract ideas about what he wanted to do with the guitar and things like that, and it's just not as easy and conventional as like, okay, here's an acoustic guitar that has a built-in pickup, let's just plug it in straight, let's go. So he had just a lot of things that he wanted to do that took a little bit of ironing out. So there was that, but I think the biggest thing was that the night before we did Unplugged, the day before, we went out to New Jersey and we held rehearsals out there. And just seeing that instilled a lot of doubt that it was a good idea to do the show, because it just wasn't moving along very fast. And, often, like you start working on something, your first pass at it's going to be a little rough, a little sloppy, and then it gets a little better, and then a little better. And then with most groups, it sounds like it's going to sound pretty quick, and it just was not happening. It just seemed like as nightfall was approaching, it was just like, oh my God, this is something that should not happen tomorrow. This is going to be awful. So
Really?
I remember how I felt like going into the day, and it wasn't until they ran through The Man Who Sold the World where you heard it. And I think that I read something recently where Chris said that he didn't feel like he had it locked in, and he wound up just staying up all night, and I think inviting people into his hotel room. So they continued to practice, long after the fact, long beyond like what any of us had seen. So I was really surprised the next day to see what I saw, and it wasn't until hearing Man Who Sold the World that I realized that this could potentially be great.
It's amazing. Well, I mean, it's one of their most legendary performances. It's so cool hearing that, there was that uncertainty beforehand, and then it kind of just came together like that. Were the Meat Puppets, were they there for the rehearsal the day prior?
Oh, yeah.
How did they?
Yeah, definitely.
That feeling of, I'm not sure if this is going to go well, and then they nail it. Was that a common occurrence with Nirvana performances, or was that just for Unplugged?
I think really just Unplugged, because everything else was something they'd done for years. The live electric show was something where, there wasn't really like a rigid, at least in the earlier years and all the way up until the In Utero tour, it wasn't so scripted to where you ever really knew what was going to happen. And especially in 92 and 93, the shows were so far apart that there wasn't any sort of like a baseline normal. So you go in and the shows were really kind of all over the place. And some of them were really interesting. Some of them were terrible. And some of them were incredible. You never knew what you were going to see, how it was going to end, how it was going to flow.
And there's one more question about a specific concert. So there was, I think it was Top of the Pops in the UK. Nirvana deliberately butchered Smells Like Teen Spirit. Yeah, were you there for that gig?
Not at that one. I remember seeing it though.
What was your reaction to it?
Oh, I couldn't be happier.
Well, what motivated them to do that?
I want to say that was the thing where they were required to lip sync, or at least partially lip sync. I think that was one where it was lip synced, with the exception of the vocals. So that was one where they didn't honestly even have to be playing. So in order to draw attention to that, because it is sort of this thing that's seen as being a little bit phony, and I think that some bands don't like this idea of going in there and phoning that in to where they're up there pretending to play when they're really not. And so, I think more or less it's just their sense of humor where what's the funniest thing we could do right now, and this is it. So,
is there any other funny on stage experience you remember from Nirvana?
Oof. I honestly should have made a list. It's really hard to zero in on anything. They appear as random thoughts, on occasion. There's, stuff that you can and can't share, and it's like, I think the stuff that you do remember, it's unbelievably hilarious, but it's just not ready for prime time.